Welcome back to my Kimono Upcycling channel. My name is Risa, and today I'm excited to share the first episode of a new series, Kimono Upcycling Meets Streetwear, Modern Japanese Fusion. In this series, I'll take you traditional and vintage Japanese textiles, especially kimono fabrics, and fuse them with modern urban silhouettes inspired by streetwear. The goal isn't to create historical reproductions or delicate display pieces, but bold, wearable art that brings heritage into everyday life. For this first project, I'm transforming a thrifted denim jacket I found at a local charity shop using vintage kimono obi fabric. I'll be using Sashiko traditional hand stitching techniques to merge ragged denim with elegant silk, creating a tactile, meaningful bridge between tradition and modern style. Before we start, let me introduce you to the beauty behind the fabrics I'm using. A kimono is a traditional Japanese garment made from a narrow bolt of fabric called a tanmono. These fabrics can be silk, cotton, or blends, and they're often decorated with intricate weaving, hand painting, embroidery, shibori, and motifs that tell stories of nature, seasons, and culture. What makes kimono so unique is how it's made. Unlike Western clothing, which is shaped to fit the body, a kimono is constructed as a flat garment. Long, straight panels are sewn together, and the garment only becomes wearable when it's wrapped around the body and tied with an obi. Traditionally, kimono were used until there was nothing left. First, they were worn by another person, then carefully repurposed. Later, they might be cut again to serve as nappies or cleaning clothes. When every shred of utility was exhausted, the remaining fabrics was burned, and even then, its ashes were put to use in paper making, dyeing, fertilizer, or even rudimentary soap. For this project, I'm using obi fabric. The obi isn't just functional, it keeps the kimono secure. But it's also decorative, forming a beautiful focal point at the back. Historically, obi became wider and more elaborate during the mid-Edo period. As traditional kimono wearing declined, vintage pieces often ended up in storage, thrift shops, or even in the trash. In fact, Japan discards over 500,000 tons of kimono every year. Much of it simply burned. Fabrics that were once cherished became considered old or out of fashion, leaving countless meters of silk and cottons waiting to be repurposed or lost entirely. Denim too carries its own environmental footprint. It's durable and beloved in streetwear, but its production requires massive amount of water and energy. A single pair of jeans can require 5,000 to 10,000 liters of water. And the dyeing and finishing processes often generate chemical waste. Fast fashion has compounded the problem, with millions of denim garments discarded every year. So by sourcing a thrift denim jacket, I'm extending the life of a garment that might otherwise have ended up in landfill. I first went to my favorite local charity shop to hunt for materials. It's the end of November, so you see lots of seasonal items as well. The shop is small, but it has a surprising variety, and sometimes you can find real treasures. This time, I picked up 2 denim jackets and a cozy cardigan, the one I'm actually wearing throughout this project. For this project, I chose the vest style denim jacket. I tried pairing it with the cardigan I bought at the same time. It looked already far too classy. I started by selecting the obi I sourced when I was back in Japan this spring. This pink butterfly one is an obi I recently transformed into multiple items. The other one I turned into a cushion upon request from one of my loyal customers on pre-order. Both look fabulous, but I was more drawn to this emerald green obi with its butterfly and floral motif. I had already upcycled it into an obi belt for another loyal customer, and ever since I had been wanting to make another piece of clothing with it. So I decided to go for this one. In Japanese culture, the butterfly motif on a kimono symbolizes the transformation from lover to adult and carries meanings such as immortality, rebirth, growth, beauty, social advancement, and longevity. I felt this made it the perfect obi for this project. I wanted the large embroidery to be fully visible, so I decided to use it on the back panel of the jacket. When I made a previous denim jacket, I cut out this panel. However, cutting it meant adding a lining and caused the denim jacket's shape to become less stable. So this time I chose to keep the panel intact and sew the obi directly on top. To begin, I used newspaper to map out the shape and placement of the fabric, ensuring the design would fit perfectly before any stitching began. With the pattern successfully prepared, it was time to start cutting the obi. Obi are often made from 2 pieces of fabric, a front and back, but for this project, I only needed the front. I began by carefully unpicking it. Like kimono, obi are hand-stitched, so they come apart quite easily. Usually, obi contain a thick cotton lining called obishin, which helps maintain their shape, but this one didn't have it, perhaps because the fabric was already quite thick. I pressed the holes with an iron as needed and used a cotton cloth as a protective layer when working over the embroidery. This cotton came from another obi's obishin, which, having been in good condition, had found a new life as a protective underlay. and then isolated the main fabric and cut the lengths of obi required for the project. Obi are around 4 meters long, so it's important to cut only what you need first to make the work manageable. Next, I placed the paper pattern I had made from newspaper onto the obi to cut the shapes. I realized that cutting it exactly as it would have sliced through some of the lettering on the fabric. It seemed a waste to cut the text, so I decided to tilt the pattern slightly. Although the lines became diagonal and the cut wasn't perfect, this slight imperfection adds its own beauty, I think. Once the pattern was in place, I pinned it down and cut slightly beyond to allow for seam allowances. I often receive comments saying I could never cut such beautiful fabric, and I actually feel grateful when I hear that. It shows there are people who truly value kimono, which is becoming increasingly rare in Japan. There are countless beautiful kimono waiting to be rediscovered. I even have videos on my channel showing that the top 5 online sites to buy kimono, as well as guides for purchasing them in Tokyo, Osaka, and Kyoto in person. Somewhere in Japan, there are kimono waiting for people like you, although tomorrow they might end up in a landfill. I carefully saved any leftover fabric. It can be used later, either as an accent on this project or in a future creation. With the pieces cut, I pressed the edges with an iron and pinned the fabric to the back of the vest. To avoid accidentally piercing the front fabric with pins, I placed a sheet of thick cardboard underneath. The next step was selecting the thread I would use for stitching, ensuring it matched both the fabric and the embroidery perfectly. These hand-sewing threads I'm using for this project were all passed down to me by my husband's mother. Some of them even belonged to her own mother, so truly vintage threads that have been carefully preserved over the years. I couldn't decide which one to use, so I decided to ask my lovely followers on Instagram for their opinion. While waiting for their responses, I took a little break to relax and gather my thoughts before starting the stitching. I have to take a moment to thank everyone who commented on where you're watching from in my last videos. When I started this business last year and was doing local markets, only a few people really paid attention. So knowing that there are so many of you on board, all on the same journey, is incredibly encouraging. So today I decided to treat myself to a few snacks from some of your countries. I have a nata from Spain and some biscuits from Germany. It's Monday, and after a busy family weekend, I think I deserve these little sneaky indulgences, don't you? I'd love to know what your favorite snacks are for a break. I might even try one in a future video. After finishing my snack break, I started receiving a few responses from my followers. Beige was the most popular choice, but there weren't enough replies yet, so I decided to move on and design the front of the vest while waiting a little longer. I also wanted to try something new, Sashiko stitching. Without a stencil to guide me, I decided to work it freehand. The design I was particularly drawn to was shippo. The shippo pattern carries a beautiful meaning. The overlapping circles represent harmony, lasting connections between people, and the enduring prosperity of a family or household. I picked up the leftover kimono fabric and pinned it onto the opposite panel, so the jacket would look beautiful from both the front and back. By this point, more responses had come in on Instagram. Beige and deep green were overwhelmingly popular, and beige had taken the lead. So I decided to start sewing the back panel with this color. While stitching the fabric onto the jacket, I was careful to ensure that no knots were visible from the back, hiding them neatly behind the kimono fabric. As I stitched, I made sure that stitches looked perfectly vertical on the front, while the thread on the reverse side ran diagonally across the back. This method creates a clean, polished appearance on the surface while keeping the structure secure underneath. This part of the process moves very slowly and peacefully, allowing me to truly enjoy each stitch and the rhythm of hand sewing. I apply the same technique to the patches on the front of the jacket. After putting the children to bed, I returned to the jacket to continue stitching the shippo sashiko. At first, I used white sashiko thread, so I could see the stitches more clearly. But I soon realized that it slightly diminished the elegance of the design. So I carefully unpicked it and reconsidered my choice. This time I chose a deep green thread. By now, more responses had come in on Instagram. Beige was popular, but a few of my longtime followers had suggested deep green. Although it's subtler and harder to see, I felt it would make the design look more refined and sophisticated. As before, I took care to ensure that no knots were visible on the back. Using backstitch, I secured the thread neatly, avoiding knots entirely, so that the underside remained as clean as the surface. This method allows the sashiko to maintain its delicate, elegant appearance while keeping the stitching durable and precise. There was actually one more Sashiko design I wanted to try for this project, the seigaiha pattern. Seigaiha, or blue ocean waves, represent gently rolling waves stretching endlessly across the horizon. The motif carries the wish that life may continue in peace and stability for all eternity. When used in Sashiko, it also evokes the vast blessing of the sea, symbolizing a wish for peaceful living and infinite happiness. There was a bit of empty space on the kimono fabric I had sewn to the front panel, so I decided to use it to add this design. Ideally, I would have stitched it before attaching the fabric, but the material was very thick and difficult to work with, so I limited myself to just 2 rows of stitching. Time also had reached its limit. There were still more details I wanted to add, but for now, this is where I drew a line for this project. And here it is, the finished jacket. The back is beautifully neat, and the Sashiko stands out delicately against the fabric. It pairs perfectly with a white knitted cardigan, and in spring I can wear it over a light top, making it suitable all year round. Next, I might try making a long skirt using jeans and leftover kimono fabric, another fusion of streetwear and traditional Japanese textile. Thank you so much for joining me in this creative moment. See you in the next project. またね!